We're just getting set up. If you're here to make public comment, we have a form you can fill out. If you need an agenda, they're back there. We're all just getting our technology together. We're just working out our technical issues. Thanks for sticking with us. All right. Thank you, everyone, and good evening. It is Tuesday, May 23rd, 2023. It is 6:38 p.m., and you are at a Common Council of the City of Wausau meeting. Welcome, everyone. The first item on our agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. Next up, Clerk Caitlin will do the roll call. I am here.
We have 11 voting members present.
Thank you very much. Proclamations, I didn't get them in the packet, but we've had several this month. Feel free to check them out on our website. And then if there's no opposition, I'm going to just pop our Sustainability, Energy, and Environment Committee award to the Good News Project first so that Carol, Alder Lukens, can introduce it and tell us what this is all about.
Thank you. So the Sustainability, Energy, and Environment Committee, along with City Council, is proud to present the Wausau Sustainability Award to the Good News Project. We would like to recognize the Good News Project for their environmental education programs, as well as their resource conservation, preservation, and stewardship. They are the only comprehensive e-cycling center in Marathon County. This diverts valuable materials and toxins from the landfill. The Good News Project also have a health equipment lending program that provides medical equipment to anyone regardless of their ability to pay. The committee is proud to recognize the work of the Good News Project, the work that they do every day, and we look forward to many more years of them helping the community. Is Rolene?
Yes, we do have a guest.
Okay,
if you'd like to say a few words, you are definitely welcome to.
Is here? Yeah.
So excited to present this to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So my name is Rolene Gartner, and I'm the volunteer coordinator at Good News Project. And our vision is to be the good for the environment and each other. This award is really about our community. I stand up here today hoping that Good News Project, a 40-year-old nonprofit organization, will be a sustainable model for businesses, other nonprofit organizations, and for homes. This is our hope, that we all work and more quickly to lessen our dependence on new things and shift our mindset to the reuse of products that are already considered in our part of our waste stream. We can accomplish this mindset shift together to better our community. The support that donors, businesses, and foundations give us as a nonprofit has been and continues to be integral in our efforts to become more sustainable over the years. How? It's about sharing transportation trips with local businesses so that we send 0 semi-trucks empty across the state. It's about walking or biking to work when we can. It's about installing solar and embracing the opportunity to provide extra sun-generated clean electricity back into our communities, at least during the summer. It's about getting an electric forklift and charging it on site with that very same solar energy. It's about a business culture and a commitment to renewable energy and energy-saving practices. It's about reusing durable medical equipment and providing access to anybody in need of that used, safety-checked, and sterilized equipment. It's about collecting your worn-out and unused electronics with a 99.6% repurposing of those materials to create something else, minimizing our impact on the landfill. And what else? It's about educating all generations about the small and the big things that we can do in our very own homes that take better care of our earth. This is our way of advocating for a better planet, a better place for our community. We encourage you all to join us in a healthier, greener Wausau. Thank you, Sustainability Committee, for giving us this award.
Thank you so much. Great. All right. Next up is our presentation, PFAS Cost Recovery Program, with Stephen Aquario of Council. Welcome. We have your presentation up. We have a clicker. And we welcome you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the Common Council,
Might be a little touchy.
folks from the public that are with us here today. My name is Stephen Aquario.
It might be off. We might have booby-trapped it.
Okay.
Button on the side.
We like to make our first guest guess what it.
Can we try it again? Thank you. So, thank you, folks. I'm an environmental attorney representing local governments in Wisconsin and around the country on water contamination. This is a national problem that we're experiencing. Oh, thank you. And unfortunately, the city of Wausau finds itself in the shoes of the nation as well, which is unfortunate because instead of being concerned with the PGA and Stevens Point or the outdoor mall that we're building here, shopping center, or the ginseng plants, we have to deal with water contamination. But it's the profession we've chosen to protect the public, and that's just what you're doing. And I wanted to commend the mayor for your transparency with the public. When this contaminant was found, the immediacy of notifying the public, letting folks know what's in the water is everything. And you've handled it. Your crisis communication background has paid off. So congratulations. So folks, I'm here to talk about PFAS. PFAS in particular, I want to talk about a couple of classifications or chemical compounds of the PFAS family. There's thousands and thousands and thousands of PFAS chemicals that are widely used and have been used for several decades, since the 1950s. PFOA and PFOS, which are the two that have been most studied by the scientists in the United States, by the United States EPA, by chemists, and the manufacturers of those chemicals are largely listed there. There are others, but those are the larger ones. On the right-hand side is another a grouping of companies. You can see 3M on both sides. AFFF stands for aqueous film forming foam. This is basically a certain type of firefighting foam that was mandated by the federal government to be used to extinguish certain fires on airports and on military bases. So a lot of times you see this contamination happen on or around military bases. That's why. PFAS was solely produced by 3M in the United States. So this slide here talks about the types of industries. This is an industrial city for several generations of industry here, paper industry. This chart talks a little bit about the types of industries that were using PFAS, the top 10 industries: oil and gas, waste management, chemical manufacturing, plastics and resins. You can see at the bottom there airports with the use of the firefighting foam. This slide here talks about PFOA and PFOS. In the black are prior uses of these chemicals. What were they used for? PFOA. Cooking surfaces. We all remember Teflon, certain cosmetics, polishes, and waxes. Lots of schools are reporting, unfortunately, if you find PFAS around a school, and yet there's no known firefighting foam or industry around that, waxes. It was heavily used in polishing and waxes that were used on the floors. The black are prior uses being phased out. The red listed there are current uses of PFOA, lubricants, surfactants, and emulsifiers. And PFOS, you could still see it's currently still used in metal plating and finishing, firefighting foams, although we're phasing that out around the United States, photograph development, aviation fluids. PFAS is a lot of chemical names. You'll see it in a lot of times in the newspapers. You see Gen X. This chart just shows us here. I wanted to just list and just show you what is the evolution of these contaminants. The evolution, the replacing of PFOA is now called Gen X. These compounds are changed. The carbon molecules are replaced and moved around. PFBS is now replaced PFOS. So those are the previous and current uses. These chemicals are commonly called emerging contaminants. And the reason why they are called emerging contaminants is basically, it's not that they're new. They've been in our earth, in our surface water, in our groundwater, in our soil for several decades. They're called the forever chemical. They do not degrade in our environment, but they're called emerging contaminants basically because we now have technology that can measure them. PFAS is the first chemical to be regulated by the United States Environmental Protection Agency in a part per trillion. That's one part of PFAS for 1 trillion parts of water or of soil. They have a new portal of entry into human beings into the environment. Again, does not mean that these contaminants or chemicals are new. They've been released into the environment for as long as they have been in use. I pulled this because of an aquatic chemist, Dr. Christy Ramukal, if that's how she pronounces her last name. And here she's talking about it from the University of Wisconsin, and she's talking about they have a dual nature. It's sort of a push-pull. They repel and they attract. They never know how these contaminants, or chemicals rather, are going to act in an environment or are going to act in an industrial application. And that's what makes them, as she says, so weird in the environment. This image here talks about the PFAS cycle. You can see on the visual here where it talks about a wastewater treatment plant, which is taking wastewater, treating a biosolid. The biosolid then is spread then onto our farms. That's a cycle of PFAS, one way to look at it. The biosolid contains PFAS even after treatment. Goes into our food, goes into our cattle. The landfill, leachate, unlined landfills. leaches into our groundwater, into our surface water. There's the firefighting foam again that's been used for several decades. Soil on farmland, our Wisconsin River there, drinking water affecting all of us. So you could see this in the household products with PFAS. It's everywhere. PFAS is so pervasive into our society now, but it has caused damage to our drinking water and to our environment. The dark red states have chosen to regulate it. The light red states, including Wisconsin, have chose to issue certain health advisories. Wisconsin did do a health advisory on certain type of PFAS, not PFOA or PFOS, but a different type of a PFAS contaminant. The TAN states are following the United States EPA. So I just wanted to show you what the country is doing. We're all wrestling with this, whether you live in Texas or Oregon or Wisconsin or Illinois or the South or the Northeast. The green and blue lines show what the states have done. Some states have chosen to enact a maximum contaminant level. So before the United States enacted a contaminant level, that's a legal, regulatory, binding contaminant level, some states have acted. New York acted at 10 parts per trillion. Michigan, 10 parts per trillion, or various levels of parts per trillion. So you could see on the chart, the higher levels are up around 70 or 80 parts per trillion. Of course, the lower levels come down around 10 parts per trillion. I'll draw your attention to what the United States is doing now. The United States EPA has just announced they are lowering it to where that red line crosses all the states to 4 parts per trillion. Basically, folks, this is zero. The maximum contaminant level by the United States, our federal government, the scientists who now have human health studies for adverse health effects have now set this level for a maximum contaminant level at 4 parts per trillion. This chart here, I just wanted to show the members of the council, the mayor, how fast the United States has acted. I've never seen them move so quick through multiple administrations, Republican and Democrat. In 2009, they began publishing provisional health advisories for PFOA, and if you fast forward it to now, they proposed the drinking water regulations in the fall of '22, and the fall of '23, this year, they're going to finalize these maximum contaminant levels. There they are for a PFOS and for a PFOA, which is what the city of Wausau has found in its drinking water, is now going to be set at 4 parts per trillion. The proposed rule came out on March 29th. The final rule at the end of this year, capital improvements may get an extension, and the United States is likely to declare these contaminants as a hazardous substance. You may know what that triggers: Superfund monies for cleanup. Some states have already declared, like New York, PFOA and PFOS as a hazardous substance, triggering state Superfund monies, but this would trigger federal aid or federal monies. I wanted to show you this chart here only because for one purpose only, and that's that middle column there where you see MCLG. That's the maximum contaminant level goal. The goal is 0. But they set it at 4 parts per trillion. I think that's about as low as they could get with technology to actually trace and detect these substances. So this chart just shows us the goal of the United States EPA, which Wisconsin is largely following, is a goal of 0 detect in our drinking water. This chart just shows some of the familiar names that we've seen these products in. Scotchgard, Gore-Tex, Teflon, of course, we all know that. Simonized, Kevlar, firefighting foam. These emerging contaminants are now impacting our municipal water systems. Utilities across the United States are being impacted by these emerging contaminants such as PFAS, above the U.S. EPA health advisory levels. I remember talking to local governments around the United States when they would say, well, we're at 65 parts per trillion. We're all set. Boy, do I feel bad about that. There's so much inconsistency that's happened amongst the states, amongst the United States, about different thresholds, when in fact, when they got the health data, they actually set it at 0, and folks thought that we were safe at 65 parts per trillion. Primary sources of our water contamination that we're finding? Tied to manufacturing, of course. We talked about tied to biosolids, and we talked about the use of firefighting foam. Airports, military bases, firefighting training exercises, either at burn pits or on our airports, and firefighting academies. Those are the adverse health effects that have been reported. Kidney cancer, I'll focus on a few. Thyroid disease, thyroid cancer, and you can see the other list of exposure. These are human health experience data now that demonstrates a linkage to these types of cancers. And on the other side of the chart there, I just wanted you to see 2009. On the left, the blue chart shows you the United States had a threshold of 400 parts per trillion for PFOA and 200 parts per trillion for PFOS. And in 2016, that was lowered to 70 for both. And then look on 2022, there's that 0. Wausau, just a reminder to all of you, provides municipal water, wastewater service to approximately 16,000 residents, 250 miles of water mains. Water treatment facility proudly distributes 1.5 billion gallons of water each year, 4.2 million gallons per day. It's been reported, no surprise to this council, no surprise to this mayor, what the media has been reporting. The Waterworks Commission using granulated activated carbon technology to remove this contaminant from its drinking water, but it comes with a cost. Preliminary estimates have it hovering near $20 million. The Milwaukee Journal Sentinel reporting extensively about it as well. Again, using that term forever chemical. These were the testing. I just wanted to remind the council, they know, the mayor knows, the people know. You've been transparent. You've put this out in your water quality reports. All wells contaminated, both with PFOA, PFOS, lab results 15 parts per trillion, 12 parts per trillion, 14 parts per trillion, and so on and so forth. In 2019, the state did this sampling. Again, state sampling in 2022, it's consistently been there. No surprise to me. This has been in our environment, it's been in our groundwater, it's been in our surface water. Somebody discharged this into the environment. Good news is technology is there to remove it. The city acted swiftly in putting in these systems to take it out of our water. Drinking water, wastewater is next, but it costs tens of millions of dollars, as we've seen, and ongoing operations and maintenance costs. There is a path forward. I'm here today to talk about a certain type of litigation that's been commenced against certain manufacturers of this. This is a very mature federal litigation that started about 6 or 7 years ago. Initially, the manufacturers said, this isn't our fault. You made us make this to your specifications, United States. You told us. Well, they lost that in court. They tried to dismiss the action in its entirety. Well, they lost that. There's now over 4,000 cases filed against these manufacturers, with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of municipal water departments joining. Next week, the city of Stuart, Florida, will represent the class of municipal water districts. There are time-sensitive deadlines in play right now. Concurrently to all of this, there has been mediation commenced amongst the parties. They are talking extensively every day, right now. as we speak, in anticipation of that trial in early June. So, folks, that's a brief presentation. I wanted to walk you through what the nation is facing, what Wisconsin is facing, what the city of Wausau is facing, and I appreciate the opportunity to be with you here today. Mayor, thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. Are there questions from this body? I would like to welcome them. We will, for the record, we do have some stuff at the end, opportunity, but if there are questions about the presentation, Alder Dinney.
Thank you, Mayor. So you seem to indicate that there was the federal government mandates, and then there was the federal government potential superfund. So is there's potentially a finger pointing back at the federal government? Are we looking to potentially go after this federal government for this money?
The federal government has stepped up, similar to the ARPA funds discussion. They have set aside money for the states through revolving loan funds, through the infrastructure fund. The federal government will be providing billions of dollars to what is a trillions of dollars problem in the United States. But, Councilman, no, the action is not against the United States, but they know there's a problem with the states, and they know there's a problem with municipal drinking water systems, so they are trying to get money into the system for remediation. The defendants lost that argument that you made us manufacture this to your specifications, so I feel confident that that issue is behind us.
Any other questions at this point? Alder Killian.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for the information. What you described seems to focus exclusively on the manufacturers, your approach. Is that correct, that in a town like Wausau, looking at this issue, there wouldn't be much other attention paid then outside of the manufacturers in terms of local source investigations and attributions?
I think there's going to be an investigation into potential responsible parties, including existing industries that are here or have been here and have been closed.
Thank you. And then just one more question. You had a slide, and I believe it was from TRC. Are you affiliated, or do you have any relationship with that environmental consulting firm?
Yes, I work with them on a regular basis. I have a great relationship with them and find them to be PFAS experts that I would refer to the city should they be in need of a engineering firm.
So would you say they're indivisible from your approach and work, or that just comes with a strong recommendation?
It's neither. I have no professional relationship with them other than I call them on PFAS questions. I have no business relationship with them in any way whatsoever.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Other questions? All right, thank you. We will hold tight
Yes.
because we have a discussion at the end of this. So thank you very much.
Thank you, members of the council.
Thank you. Good. Yep. All right. Next up, we have public comment. I have one person who's registered, Josh Dirks. You are welcome to approach the podium.
Hello. Sorry for my disheveled appearance. I kind of had to race to get down here.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks. What made me race is I saw a Facebook post from a good friend today concerning this individual who's been standing on the square and repeatedly, this is probably the third week now that he's been out there standing on the stage using the natural amplification of, that great band shell to essentially spew hate speech. It's anti-Semitic, it's ugly, and it's been disrupting downtown business. There was an incident, the police were called and asked what they can do about that. Obviously, First Amendment protections. He was allowed to continue. Local business owners all set off their car alarms to try to distract from what he was doing, and the police were threatening to start citing cars for public noise ordinances. I think this issue, I went out there and I witnessed this once myself. It's happened at least 6 or 7 times over the course of the last 3 weeks, and he will go for an hour plus. The one time that I witnessed it, there's people walking through the park, there's kids playing ball, and you can hear this hate speech being spewed, onto the next blocks. It's really hard to exactly hear what he was saying, and when I asked him, what is on your script? What are you reading? He wouldn't show me that, but he did give me a very extensive pamphlet, which just pretty much points all the fingers of all the world's ills directly at Israel. And yeah, the Facebook post I saw tonight was from a close friend who is of Jewish descent, and it was a very painful thing to read. So I thought I had to come down here. I'd like something to be done, but I also want to implore the council not to try to limit free speech at all. I mean, what I see, because I've been thinking about this for a couple of weeks, what I see is the use of that public utility, that band shell. It's a natural amplifier. It's almost like a bullhorn, and it really just spreads this message more than it should be spread for one, possibly mentally unsound individual. So, I could go on for a while. Maybe some kind of permitting for using the actual stage itself. And I, again, urge you not to limit, creative endeavors, music, that's what it was built for, theater, that's fine, pickup, that's great, but if it's some kind of a protest or political speech, using that stage and getting proper permitting beforehand, I would just ask something along those lines, because it's really disrupting the downtown.
Thank you. All right, we are moving on to our consent agenda. However, I'd like you to know that I am pulling item 230509 to discuss separately. But other than that, I would ask for a motion for file number 230501 through file number 230512. I have a motion by Alder Watson and a second by Alder Lukens. Is there any discussion? All right, I'm not seeing any.
You may begin voting. Motion passes 11-0.
All right, thank you. Now we're moving on to the item number 230509. It is a resolution from the Capital Improvement and Street Maintenance Committee approving the agreement for management and maintenance of a stormwater facility at the Wausau School District, 2607 North 18th Street. I have a motion by Alder Henke and a second by Alder Watson. I do know that there's going to be some discussion or questions.
Motion to amend.
I have a motion to amend from Alder Herbst. Was that intentional? That was not intentional. Anyone like to speak on this one? Yes, Alder Lukens.
Thank you. So I asked for this to be pulled separate because, so my concern about this is for storm water maintenance agreement for construction that's being done on the Wausau East campus property. And there is going to be an artificial turf field installed along with artificial turf infields of 2 baseball diamonds. And so I needed to do some checking because I'm still learning about stormwater maintenance agreements and things like that. But what really caught my eye, and I just wanted to have this discussion because when I was last year, when we found PFAS in the water, I started trying to learn as much as I could about PFAS. And so in that process, I came across some articles. I was looking at scientific articles. I was trying to look at, very valid articles. So anyway, I came across some that talked about PFAS being an artificial turf. And then so that kind of led me down that avenue. And as I learned more about it, it's not only PFAS, but it's also that there is crumb rubber put down for infill in artificial turf. And that's made from recycled tires. So that usually, at least from all the sources that I read, that can tend to have some hazardous substances. So, and then there are other hazards with artificial turf and the heat that, all in all, although many people think that it saves water, often it doesn't, because it can get so hot in the summer that it's hotter than asphalt. It is, not only that it can, but it does. And so it needs to be misted, and that only lasts for a few minutes. So anyway, I would prefer that some other method be used, because I'm concerned about the environmental and public health concerns. So anyway, I did some checking, and I know this is a stormwater maintenance agreement, and so it allows the city to visit the ponds. The district does own the property, and I have also talked to the district about this. I've been very transparent and asked that they not put in artificial turf. But I understand a lot of people want that longer time for the playing field. So anyway, one thing, I talked to the city engineer, and we got the email from Mr. Lindman explaining what the city's responsibility is. But I also I talked with a few different people from a few different departments of the DNR, and I just wanted to share this information. And it's very timely considering the PFAS presentation. I didn't plan that, but, and especially because I guess going forward, if there are developments or something for us as a council, I guess, maybe to consider. One of the problems is that there is no regulation on artificial turf. And so one thing that I found out in talking with one of the DNR staff people in Madison is that there is it's called 62 FTSA, which is a PFAS chemical. And in the presentation we just saw, you saw some that are called Generation X chemicals, the newer ones. And that's a Generation X one. So in the Northeast, there has been much more testing. There are universities that have fields that are testing artificial turf versus, natural turf. Anyway, so an organization tested one of the newer turfs, because that's one of the other things that's touted. The artificial turf industry is a lucrative one. Let me tell you, it definitely is. And artificial turf is made in China and wherever else, so we really don't know what it's made of. But anyway, they tested it, and it was made, they found the 62 FTSA in the backing of the turf and found 300 parts per trillion of PFAS. So considering all the money that we have spent in PFAS mitigation, I understand that this is for stormwater maintenance, but I still find that concerning. And I just think it's something that I would like to be shared with the public, because I think it's something that we all should be aware of, because we all have a responsibility for drinking water. So I just kind of wanted to share that. And I guess, I don't know if anyone else has comments, but just wanted to share that and have it be for public public knowledge. Thank you.
Thank you. We do have some other comments. Alder Rasmussen.
Thank you. I'm not sure, we all are concerned about PFAS, obviously, but I'm not sure that we have the standing to stop the installation of turf on these facilities. This particular one that we've singled out, based on its address, is only Wausau East. They're also slated to install turf at West and in the track at John Muir. Those two items, I believe, passed on the consent agenda already. But that said, a stormwater maintenance agreement is just that. It really, us denying that will not stop the installation of the turf. The district got approval under public referendum to make those improvements, along with dozens of other site improvements at their various facilities, some of which they're following through on, some of which they've decided not to. But I don't know that us taking any negative action on this item would do anything to slow down or stop that project involving turf on any of those fields. So I just don't think that we have the authority.
Thank you. Alder Denny.
Thank you, Mayor. And maybe Eric can refresh our memory here. Whether or not this was artificial turf or not, doesn't the city still have some obligation to manage the groundwater on sites like that? We've seen certainly over at West where we have runoff issues on grass, turf. So I don't know if it's an exclusive to artificial turf or not.
We test our outfalls every year in compliance for our MS4 permits. So we do have requirements that we do have to test, yeah. But it's not specific to a pond, or it's not, but when we do clean our ponds, like pull the sediment and stuff out, then we do also test that material to see if it has to be landfilled or if we can reuse it as well.
But as far as a groundwater runoff evaluation, it doesn't apply specifically to artificial turfs. Any large surface area that could potentially impact surrounding areas with runoff is considered.
Yeah, I mean,
For these types of retention ponds.
right. So, you know, they accept water from a certain area, right? So that in the wet ponds that are there, they retain the water, which helps pull out the total suspended solids and do some nutrient removal before it goes back into the environment. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So they're regional, yes.
Okay. Alder Lukens.
Thank you. As to Alder Rasmussen's comments, thank you for that, because I was not implying that we should not vote in favor of this, because I understand it is the district's property. But thank you also, Alder Denny, because I guess that's more, I don't know. That's one thing that I was wondering and I forgot to say is, do we have any, when we check the ponds, is there an ability to test? And I know that PFAS comes from other things too, but I guess it's something I would like us to be aware of, because we have spent a lot of money mitigating this, and the city, has taken a lot of heat too, I think, from, some people. And I think that we all have a responsibility. And so I guess my aim is, to hopefully, so that we'll all be aware, and if there is anything else we can do to monitor anything or in future developments, if this is something that we could be aware of, if we do have the ability to do anything. So I do understand, our relationship with the district, and I did not mean that to imply that we should vote against it, but But if there is any other way for us to monitor anything, I would be all for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Alder Larson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Alder Lukens, just want you to know that this was talked about pretty extensively at CISM before it got passed, for the same reasons that we talked about earlier about the the runoff, what we discussed about, when we discussed about the artificial turf on athletic field. You know, quite frankly, I don't know why the school board elected to go this route when turf has worked fine for all, or natural turf has worked fine for all these years. But for the reasons that Alder Rasmus stated, I guess that's why it passed, and thank you.
Thank you. Alder McElhaney.
In thinking this through, we just had a PFAS, presentation. We have put millions upon tens of millions upon tens of millions to try to do that. Now we're looking at sources. What could be the source? Now we're going to allow somebody to put something in a school that may be another source of PFAS. I don't know what the city's responsibility is, but if we don't have it, we should have it, because it is our water for everyone. And that is, we are responsible to people in our community to give them clean water, clean soil, clean, schools. I'm sorry the school district has decided this, but what is our responsibility in what they're putting on? Because God knows if something happens, it'll be up to the city to take care of it. And I don't feel like cleaning up anybody else's messes anymore. And I know my residents are feeling the same way. So I'm concerned about this, and I know this is just a stormwater, but are we testing for PFAS? And if we find PFAS in the runoff, can we do something, or are we going to go, oh, well? I'm concerned, and I think we have given our concerns to the school district, and they have ignored it. To my knowledge, they have ignored it because we have talked about PFAS. But if they're putting in something that is going to leach PFAS into the groundwater, I have a concern about that. And I would like, I don't know who I can ask, but do we as a city have any responsibility or any oversight over somebody that may put in something that we are now going to be at 0.4 parts per trillion to take out of the water? And I don't, for a turf. What I don't know. Is something that we can talk about in another
Let's
committee?
do it. Yeah, I appreciate this conversation that we're having, and I'm taking this as a homework assignment for me and Eric and Ann, and maybe we can come up with a couple of ways that we can attack this from maybe we talk to the school district a little bit more about this. We could have a formalized resolution saying, hey, we really are opposed to this. We could talk to the state. There's a variety of opportunities. We know that they're going to be regulating surface water at some point, right? So this is another opportunity for us. So I'm going to take this as a homework assignment for us to take and get back to you quickly. I think it's probably important that we talk about this again at our next meeting.
And I don't know, maybe there's turf out there that doesn't leach PFAS. I don't know, but we have no idea what they're going to put in.
Right.
So I think that there has to be some collaboration, because we can't have, we just can't have any more, we can't put any more PFAS into our soils.
I don't know why we'd
can't.
voluntarily do that at this point, but thank you. We have a couple more comments. Alder Rasmussen.
Thank you. It would seem to me that investigation is a job for the DNR. I mean, they obviously are in control of not only the standard, but of enforcement. And so I think when something is making entry into our environment, whether it's our water system or whether it's soil, they are the agency that has the authority to stop those things and monitor those things. They do it for industry. I don't know that we necessarily wear that hat here. I think we're too small for that at local government, because it's a more pervasive problem than just that. And I think some of their projects are already underway. I think recently they started digging already at John Muir for something. They've got half the fence down, and they've got heavy equipment in there, and they're already starting to turf that track. So, we're way out beyond stopping anything they're doing right now. But I would imagine that the DNR is probably the oversight authority, not us. So, thank you.
Can look into it. If there's no opposition, I'd like to recognize Alder Lukens. I know that it's the third time. I'm not seeing any opposition. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I will try to this will be my last. I just wanted to say also that in speaking with It was an environmental toxicologist from the DNR. She said that in addition to the PFAS, which I think one of the issues is that because this is all, it's not new, but it is with the awareness. And so I don't know that they're doing, I don't know that they're, that experience with artificial turf right now because there are so many issues with it. Like I said, I just became aware of it when I was reading about PFAS, and that's really what led me on this journey. But what she did indicate is that definitely in the crumb rubber, there are plasticizers and other hazardous substances that are definitely a concern of those getting into our water from runoff. So she was definitely the different, I talked to a few different people from the DNR and different departments, like I said. And all of them did express concerns with it, but every single one said, well, and I didn't have a lot of time, so there may be other people that are more familiar with it, but they definitely did express concerns. And she also told me that the Department of Health has a site risk assessment group. And so if that is something that the council was interested in learning more about, they could give us that information. Thank you.
Thank you. Alder Killian.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And while the DNR may be the regulatory and oversight department, I'd be very surprised or confused if they actually took proactive steps to require testing or action on this, as was suggested. I think we may hear we don't have the authority to do that. And let's not forget, we had kind of dioxin levels in a city park for years that were 20 times over the non-industrial soil standard in Wisconsin. And even at that point, the DNR did not take a more aggressive approach. So while I certainly appreciate the efforts of DNR and DHS, I think we can't kind of overstate the importance of being proactive as a local government. And as you suggest, approaching these things and having discussions on how at the municipal level, if there are gaps or voids or things that we want to be a little more protective about how we do that. So I'd certainly support having those discussions. And yes, I commend our regulatory and health departments in Wisconsin. I think often they're simply not given the authority to do some of the things that maybe we'd like to see, or even maybe they'd like to see, but maybe statutorily it's not there. So I would support talking about this more. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Alder Gisselman.
Yes, I'm just carrying on with, from Alder Killian. I think we really have to depend on ourselves for dealing with this, because I think that we should maybe take this up under CISM or wherever, because I think that the testing of this, once this is in place and we're getting runoff from this flowing into the stormwater facility, I think that we will, just carrying on with from what Becky said, I think that's our responsibility to make sure that that water that's going into our groundwater is perfect. And I think that if there's PFAS or any other contaminant that's coming into our groundwater that we know the source of, I mean, we're going to be talking about sourcing of our PFAS for the next while. So I think that we would know where that PFAS is coming from, and I think it's our obligation to make sure that we indeed take care of our groundwater. And I think that we should be very active as far as our standing committees with regard to making sure that there's a process for this. I think we just need to know this, and if there is I think we have to follow up with diligent action. So I think we're in the mode for diligent action, and I think that this is right in front of us, and I think that we have to be ready to move and to test, and to be ready to move if indeed we find it. So with that, thank you.
Thank you. Alder Dinney.
Thank you, Mayor. I would concur with that, and I think it's important to recognize this is not specific to the school district. So as much as we want to blame the school district for all the evils here in town, let's keep it in perspective. It could be any entity out there. So I think Gary's point is the SISM committee should look at, we've certainly looked at possibility of having a stormwater utility. So we should have some general agreements that govern the runoff on any of these buildings, whether it's industrial or whether it's a field. We talked to Athletic Park. He told us here when he commented on that part that there are no PFAS in it, but we didn't discuss the pelletization of the old tires. So there's something there. Maybe we need to look at citywide as we're developing these agreements, and it shouldn't be targeted at one source at this point.
Thank you. Alder Larson, I look forward to you being involved in this conversation too. Alrighty.
Thank you.
With that, I guess we are ready to vote on the resolution approving the agreement for the management and maintenance of a stormwater facility, Wausau School District, 2607 North 18th Street.
You may begin voting. Motion passes 9-2.
All right, thank you very much. All right, we are moving on to file number 230503. This is mayor's appointments. We've got a couple here. We have Ed Merchant for the Airport Committee, Kylie Berg for the Citizens Advisory Committee, and Brian Mason for the Historic Preservation Committee. It looks like I have a motion by Alder Watson and a second by Alder Hinkie. Any discussion? Oh, we're ready to vote.
You may begin voting. Motion passes 11-0.
All right, thank you. Now on to file number 230513. This is a joint resolution from the Capital Improvement and Streets Maintenance Committee and Plan Commission authorizing the sale of city-owned property at 1515 Curling Way. Looks like I have a motion by Alder Watson and a second by Alder Lukens. Any discussion here? Not seeing it. Oh. Are we trying to discuss? No. Okay.
Does she want to amend?
Oh, I don't think she wants to amend. I think she wants to throw her phone. Okay, yeah, we're ready.
You may begin voting. Motion passes 11-0.
All right, thank you. Next up, file number 211204. It's a resolution from the Finance Committee approving the Second Amendment to the planning option with Gorman and Company LLC for the redevelopment of the former West Side Battery and LNS Printing Properties at 415 South First Avenue. It looks like I have a motion by Alder Rasmussen and a second by Alder Watson. Any discussion? Alder Killian.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and perhaps this is a question for Ms. Brodick, but is the main change here the price to $1 on the land?
Bring Director Brodick here.
Yes. Yes, it is. It is, there are two changes to this. The main one is the sale price from $100,000 to $1. And then in conjunction with that is the commitment from Gorman and Company to pay the demolition and tipping fees for kind of in exchange for the lower purchase price. The lower purchase price is coming around because they are now that they won their WIDA tax credits, there is a second round of affordable housing program tax credits administered by the Home Loan Bank of Chicago, and those tax credits or those credits basically have the ability to save $1 million in construction costs. So what we're really doing is saying we would agree to a purchase price for $1 to save $1 million to try to find that elsewhere, either via TIF or home funds or something else, some other kind of funding structure.
Okay, thank you.
Follow-up?
Yes, I mean, I understand this is being done for a positive and strategic reason, and in the packet, it states that it could assist the SCORE on a funding source that's related. So I get why perhaps it's being done strategically. I just think, particularly last term, the council and the city had pivoted in a way that really departed from the dollar land sale of city property. And I think there was a lot of concern and frustration from a large percentage of the community that repeatedly city property was being sold to developers for $1. It seemed that, at the dollar store, you had toiletries, toys, and City of Wausau owned property, apparently. And yes, that does not seem to be a consistent set of items. So while I highly support this project and understand the stated rationale from others' perspectives, I just won't be supporting to the return of city-owned land for $1 unless it's an exceptional case where that benevolence is truly passed on in a way where perhaps, I won't even go to inventory the situations, but I don't think this meets that exceptional standard, so I won't be supporting that. Thank you.
Thank you. Alder Rasmussen.
I guess I find it surprising that any of us would be, after the time we've spent beating the drum on the need and necessity for low-income housing, that we would oppose an initiative that helps a project like that take flight. We've invested a whole bunch of time and money into this project, into getting it to qualify for WIDA tax credits. We actually extended the timeline so that on the second cycle of approvals, that this project could reapply for WIDA tax credits. They finally have them. And those tax credit methods, both of them working arm in arm, help this project come to fruition and serve the people who need it much better and sooner. And if the trade-off is this land for $1, which no one has wanted other than, a couple of projects, in exchange for them picking up the demolition and tipping fees, which are also incredibly expensive for us as part of the development, it seems like a fair exchange. And though, we've been criticized and by a number of folks for dollar land sales or giving land to the private sector for commercial and market rate projects. If that's the case, why on earth would we not then also leverage that same opportunity for low-income housing? Because one of the accusations that often gets made is that we are, artificially handing things out to those folks that rent for market rate or that create commercial tax base or commercial endeavors, but we do nothing to help low-income housing initiatives. Well, here's the opportunity. It's in front of us right now. I mean, Gorman offered to pay $100,000 for the land, knowing that this trade-off will gain them additional tax credits to build faster and better. There's no way that we should not support that project. We've been wanting this project. In fact, if we had our way, it would be open already. So I think anything we can do to move that along, we need to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Alder Dinney.
Thank you, Mayor. I guess I've been on record as opposing selling stuff for $1 to for-profit developers, and I hope I don't sound like I'm contradicting myself here, but it seems like an exchange of services for the land. So we're exchanging the demolition and tipping fees. Do we have on file, or have we looked at the estimate for what we thought the city would have to expend on that, and are we getting a fair trade?
Director Brodeck.
We don't have that on file right now. I think that my estimate is that this would be a little bit less than the 100,000, but I don't know, and those prices are, continue to change with different market conditions. So it also depends on the timeline, which we don't have right now, for Gorman doing their demolition. That would be part of the development agreement negotiations, which we have not yet engaged with.
Alder Larson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It just seems that this thing has been going on and on and on forever, and we're just not getting anywhere. Just a lot of psychobabble, and nothing has been happening on that corner for years. And as much as I agree with Alder Killian that, I don't really care what it's for, but giving away land for $1 is kind of why I'm sitting here, because I opposed it from the start. And even though it may be for a good cause, we've been at this for 3 years now and nothing's happened on it. So, maybe I don't know, is it time to throw in a towel on it and work for something else? But I guess I'm not going to move from my stance, and I won't be supporting selling any Wausau land for $1. Thank you.
Thank you. Alder Killian.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And yes, as Alder Larson had said, it's on the southwest side, I mean, we had run on this, trying to change the practice of selling city land for $1. And word is bond. It's easy when you're putting yard signs out and campaigning. Rhetoric's easy to put out statements and projections of what you'll do, but the rubber hits the road when you hit the vote button here. So it is action that matters. And a colleague had stated that the city got criticized for giving away things for market rate or high-end development, and that's probably because it does. And that has nothing to do with this, nor was it a quantitative comparison of, hey, the demolition is a good deal for us. I and others said we would change the practice of selling city land for $1, and it means that we would change the practice of selling city land for $1. So again, I think word is bond, and I'll just keep that with the people. Thank you.
Thank you. Alder Watson.
Although I did also run on the thought that we should value our city property sales higher than $1, I mean, this is a valuable project. This is a project that our city needs. We need more housing for our lower to middle income households. So although I may be compromising in this capacity, I think it's a valuable project that we need to get going, and this is just one more hurdle that we can eliminate for them. So I think that's why I'm going to vote for it.
Thank you. It looks like we are ready to vote.
You may begin voting. Motion passes 9-2.
All right, thank you very much. We are now moving on to file number 211109. It's a resolution from the Finance Committee approving a modification of the 2023 budget, capital project funds for projects in process and other obligations. It looks like I have a motion from Alder Watson and a second from Alder Herbst. Any discussion? Not seeing any.
You may begin voting. Motion passes 11-0.
All right, thank you. Moving on to file number 221109. It is another resolution from the Finance Committee approving the 2023 budget modifications work camps. Looks like I have a motion from Alder Herbst and a second by Alder Watson. Any discussion here? Nope.
You may begin voting. Motion passes 11-0.
All right, thank you very much. Next up is file number 221109A. It's a resolution from the Finance Committee approving and adopting the budget for American Rescue Plan Coronavirus State and Local Fiscal Recovery Fund funded projects, West Wausau Tower Backup Power Supply. I have a motion by Alder Lukens and a second by Alder Martins. Is there any discussion here? Nope.
You may begin voting. Motion passes 11-0.
All right, thank you. And here we are again to our public comment and suggestions. If there's anybody here who didn't get a chance to speak earlier, you are welcome. I'm not seeing anyone running to the podium, so thank you very much for attending. Next up, I would invite somebody to read the closed session, but first I will call on Alder Henke.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to be abstaining from the discussion and the vote pertaining to this matter for personal reasons. So,
all right, thank you. If there's somebody here who would like to read the closed session and make that motion, I have Alder Rasmussen.
I'll read it. Thank you. I'll move that we go into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin Statute Section 19.85, Paragraph 1, Sub G of the Wisconsin Statutes, for the purpose of conferring with legal counsel for the governmental body who is rendering oral or written advice concerning strategy to be adopted by the body with respect to litigation in which it is or is likely to become involved relating to recovery of costs for PFAS contamination.
Do I have a second? I have a second by Alder Watson. All right. We are ready to vote.
You may begin voting. For committees, I feel like,
Yeah. Okay.
you want to do, okay.
We'll let Caitlin call the roll.
Okay, Alder Lukens? Martins?
Aye.
Killian?
Aye.
Denny?
Aye.
Gisselman?
Aye.
McElhaney? Rasmussen?
Aye.
Watson?
Aye.
Herbst? Larson?
Aye.
Hanky?
Abstain.
Motion passes 10-0 with one abstention.
All right, so for the public, we are going into closed session. At the beginning, we are inviting our guest to give a little bit more information about the strategy, and then we will kick him out, and we will deliberate, and we will be back. So thank you.